Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the 2021 National Conference on Ending Homelessness and day 2. I'd like to start our day by showing another one of our pandemic heroes videos for you. Again, one of the things, a theme of our conference this year, we want to recognize the service and sacrifice that frontline workers and those working in the sector have made over the last year. So I'm pleased to introduce the second Pandemic Heroes videos. Of course, those videos are available on our website and the link will be provided. And I'll ask our team to put up our first video.
Eric Milesu here from the City of Windsor, here to nominate Kelly Boyle as our pandemic hero. Kelly's normal day job is a housing support worker at the Welcome Center Shelter for Women and Families. But when the pandemic hit, Kelly was asked to supervise a staff team at a newly created isolation and recovery center. Kelly went out and hired people to work 24/7 to be able to support individuals with their isolation. Kelly's been there through the thick and thin, including when we've moved properties 3 times, added and reduced services, changed the supports that we've had on site, and she's just been a constant force to be reckoned with the whole time that we've had the pleasure of working with her. Kelly is truly a pandemic hero. She's supported over 300 people with their isolation, including 50 people all at one time during a massive shelter outbreak. We are truly, truly lucky to be working with Kelly at our isolation and recovery center, and we consider her to have made an amazing pandemic pivot. So to Kelly, thank you so much. We really appreciate all of your hard work and dedication, and you are truly our pandemic hero.
On behalf of Niagara Region Homelessness Services, we are proud to nominate Nicole Cortez, our supervisor of Niagara Region's Isolation Facility and Housing Focused Shelter, for the Pandemic Hero Award. Here are some reasons.
9 days after the pandemic was declared, she opened and mobilized our isolation facility for the homeless.
795 clients supported in isolation since March 2019.
15 outbreaks in shelter she supported with public health.
12 positive COVID-19 clients supported at the facility.
98 clients staying in isolation were successfully transitioned to housing or diverted back to family or friends.
As part of our COVID shelter expansion, Nicole opened a housing-focused shelter and has completed 281 intakes to this program.
141 housing-focused shelter clients were successfully transitioned to more permanent or supportive housing options.
For all of these amazing outcomes, Niagara is nominating Nicole as our pandemic hero.
Yeah.
Yay!
Hello, pandemic heroes. My name is Lisa Bell, and I have the absolute pleasure to be able to work for the Built for Zero team at the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. I am really appreciative and honored to be able to nominate and celebrate this particular pandemic hero who has made such a difference and continues to inspire me on a daily basis with all of the work that she's doing here in Hamilton, Ontario. And that is Olivia Mancini. Olivia at one point worked up to 6 jobs in housing and homelessness, particularly around frontline service delivery, but she's also such a strong advocate for change. She's constantly helping to organize efforts to be able to advocate for solutions and approaches that directly meet the needs of our neighbors experiencing homelessness. She's also super passionate about harm reduction, and that kind of intertwines with everything that she does, and contributed to the development of a new harm reduction initiative during this pandemic. Thank you, Olivia, for everything that you do. I look forward to continue following you and supporting you, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to nominate a pandemic hero.
Well, and thank you and congratulations to our pandemic heroes, and thank you to everybody who has submitted video testimonials to us. And it just goes to show, and this is just a small piece of the work that we know that's going on in the sector. And I hope that all of you will take from this and leave the conference knowing that your work is seen, and we appreciate everything that you're doing, and we see and we appreciate the sacrifices that you have all been making. Before we introduce Adam Vaughan, I wanted to quickly recognize some of our board members who have moved on and share with you some of our newest members of the board of directors of Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. Some of you will know that we were founded in 2012, and for a long time had our founding board members with us. So the board's been going through a little bit of a transition, but I wanted to share with you some of the board members and recognize and thank some of the board members who have supported the Alliance over the last several years. In 2020, we had a few board members retire. Claudette Bradshaw, who many of you will know as a former Minister of Labour under the Chrétien government and the founder of the Homelessness Partnering Strategy, was our co-chair and frankly a grandmother for the board. She has retired, as has Brock Carlton, who was a founding member of our board and the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We were also sad to say goodbye to Maria Crawford, who retired recently as the executive director of EVAS in Toronto, who was one of our founding board members and led our governance committee since the beginning of since the founding of the Alliance. Arlene Hache, who currently leads the Women's National Housing and Homelessness Network, and a list as long as my arm of other organizations and interests. She's a member of the Order of Canada from Yellowknife and currently leads Keepers of the Circle. All of you will know Jessie Thistle. Jessie is published the award-winning best-selling book From the Ashes, is a professor at York University, was a keynote speaker at this conference, and developed the definition of Indigenous homelessness. He has also recently left the board. In 2020, we were pleased to welcome 3 new board members. Jasmine Berrio from Saskatchewan. She's an HR professional, the Public Service Commission of Saskatchewan. Bree Denning from Yellowknife, who has been working in homelessness in the North since 2008, when she joined the Yellowknife Women's Homelessness Society board. BC Omajola is an HR professional with over 20 years experience in the private sector, joined our board in 2020. Many of you will also know Doug Paulson. Doug joined the board in 2020 he's currently the executive director of End Homelessness St. John's, and well-known expert in social enterprise. Madeline Redfern from Iqaluit, who is a former mayor of Iqaluit, a lawyer with over 30 years experience in business and governance. And Henry Wall, who is the Chief Administrative Officer of the Kenora District Services Board, had joined us in 2020. In 2021, we were very excited to also have the recently former mayor of Edmonton, Dawn Iveson, joined our board. And Dawn, you'll know, is a very passionate advocate for housing and ending homelessness, and the success in Edmonton brings with him some of that experience to our board. And we're also pleased to note that Rashmina Leilani is now our newest co-chair. Rashmina is a certified public accountant, professional accountant, and is a federal public servant and entrepreneur. She's our new co-chair, who joins Matthew Pierce, our co-chair, who recently retired as CEO of Old Brewery Mission in Montreal. And Catherine Latimer, who is the executive director of the John Howard Society of Canada, is our another continuing board member. So I'd like to just take a moment to thank all of our board members with whom we rely quite heavily on to help guide the work of our organization. I'm now pleased to welcome my friend Adam Vaughn to join us. I thought it was important that we recognize Adam's work and service in support of ending homelessness. Adam, you'll know, is a reporter, former reporter, former city councillor, and a member of Parliament and parliamentary secretary. Now, you know, we have a lot of allies in our movement in government, lots of people who have lived in social housing, who have lived in co-op housing, who are very supportive in our work. But I can say, in all honesty, we have never had a more effective advocate in Parliament than Adam Vaughn. We've rarely had anybody, and I've been kicking around government and politics for 30 years, and I have met very few people inside government or frankly outside government who have spent more time in shelters, in encampments, sitting with people experiencing homelessness. Few, if any, in my experience, who have been more passionate or more effective in advancing housing investment and ending homelessness than Adam. You know, this is a bit of inside baseball, but you know, Adam, few will know that we wouldn't have actually had a national housing strategy in Canada had it not been for Adam Vaughn. I spoke a number of years ago to some folks that are, I'll say, relatively close to the Prime Minister, who told me that, you know, when Adam was recruited to be a member of Parliament, he was a star candidate, and they wanted to make sure to get a hold of him, and he made a national housing strategy a condition of his willingness to run for the Liberal Party. And that turned into a platform commitment to create a national housing strategy, the national housing strategy that you see today. Throughout his time in Parliament, Adam, you know, was a pretty fearless and relentless advocate, and I've heard the term pain in the ass used perhaps more than once. You know, he through his time there, he pushed hard for lived experience and led by example when he was asked to lead a ministerial committee to change or improve the homelessness partnering strategy and turn it, you know, into the Reaching Home program we see today. He insisted that lived experience was part of that, part of the panel and the process to create Reaching Home. He helped more than double the Reaching Home funding that all of you or many of you are working with today. He pushed for the expansion of the National Housing Strategy, including Reaching Home. He fought for the right to housing, and I can say with absolute certainty that was a bit of a fight to get the right to housing into legislation. Throughout the pandemic, he pushed for more money to ensure that you had the resources you needed to get the protections in place. Over $500 million so far, and the fact that that came so quickly is due in part to his advocacy. And he was also, and he has been and remains a very passionate advocate for Indigenous peoples, pushing very hard inside government for an urban Indigenous housing strategy, advocating for municipalities, women, young people, and people with lived experience. And I'm pleased to introduce Adam and say that in front of all of you, I want to thank Adam for his work on behalf of the sector, to thank you for your leadership and for the work that you've done. And I can say with confidence that the work that you've done, your advocacy in Ottawa, has saved or changed hundreds, if not thousands, of lives, and will continue to be felt for generations in Canada. And I'd like to welcome Adam to say a few words. Adam?
Well, thanks. Those were very kind words, and more importantly, beyond the housing, the friendships that I think we've built, perhaps are not spoken to in those comments, but it's I've received them as a friend. Of course, I'm coming to you from Toronto, the region that the treaty is held by the Mississauga of the Credit, but it's been home to Indigenous nations, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and from around Turtle Island, now the Métis, Inuit, and in fact around the world. People continue to gather in Toronto, and I am one of those people whose family has found a way to this this part of the world. But we as we start to respond to those kind words, you know, it was not me. It was a team of people, and the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness has been an integral part of the team to build the national housing strategy, to be there with ideas, to be with their policy development support, to connect us to different experiences and different communities across the country, and during the pandemic, most importantly, to make sure that real-time support was delivered in real ways to support people, to deliver the resources needed to get us to where we are now. It's been challenging and will continue to be challenging as we move forward. So I just want to say thank you. I watched yesterday's video and I watched today's video. The folks that are in the audience today, we owe such a debt of gratitude as a country and as activists around housing to the hard work you did day in, day out, keeping people alive and safe and keeping your families alive and safe. You put a lot on the line every day, but during the pandemic, it was quite extraordinary. I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts as I take my exit from politics. It was interesting to watch the election. I don't think I've seen an election where housing was talked about so intensely by every leader so often. But I have to tell you, as someone who's been working at ending the housing crisis, and in particular ending homelessness, I'm worried. And I'm worried that the focus that was placed on first-time home buyers and on the real estate market and on supporting the most affluent tenants effectively at the expense of stepping up and talking about what rapid housing 3.0 needs to look like, what the end of homelessness needs as policy to be achieved. The focus on that part of the housing spectrum at the expense of the one that is most critical, the one that is a crisis and an emergency in this country, is worrisome to me. It's I think incumbent upon all of us to get parliamentarians talking about homelessness again and not house buying. Because if we don't do that, the focus and the billions of dollars that will be required to move affluent tenants into home ownership will not solve the housing crisis and may in fact make it worse. And so I think we have work to do around refocusing parliamentarians and the government's commitment to end chronic homelessness. On that note, I have to say couldn't be happier that there's a Ministry of Housing. A little worried we're going to be building a ministry instead of building housing a bit. That was always my argument as to why I didn't think there needed to be one. But I think the time has come to have a singular focus on fine-tuning the housing strategy and bringing the last chapter of homelessness to bear. The minister in charge, Ahmed Hussain, has made an audacious commitment to end chronic homelessness in our time, to do it very quickly and to be bold about it. And I just hope that the quartet of ministers that circle this issue now, Carolyn Bennett in terms of her mandate around addictions and mental health, Ahmed with his focus on housing, Mark Miller and moving over but creating space for Patty Hadju to take over Indigenous services is huge. She comes out of the shelter system herself, of course, from Thunder Bay. And then Jean-Yves Duclos, the original minister in charge of the National Housing Strategy, being in charge of the whole healthcare budget. There are four ministers that I think sort of square the corners of the table that needs to see all of these issues land in one spot in one way to achieve the end of homelessness. So I'm optimistic, but I'd be more optimistic if the parliamentary leadership were talking about homelessness and not just talking about home ownership. But I think we have work to do, and I think there's work there that can be done. And I think that we have a real opportunity to focus the resources that are needed to achieve that goal, that dream of ending homelessness in this country and moving on to other issues to support people in different ways beyond just finding that shelter. So as I said, very kind words from Tim. work ahead to be done, and I'm happy to partner up with anybody across the country to keep pushing on those files. And again, I want to end by thanking the team of us that have been working on this, from Tim to the Canadian Alliance, the Co-op Housing Federation, the National Housing Renewal Association, the Indigenous housing providers right across this country, which have all made us smarter and stronger and demanded more of us and deserve a better response from all of us, to the people with lived experience, whose courage and whose insights and whose leadership, quite frankly, are the guiding light in all of this. So I want to say thank you for the experience of being part of the team. And while I may not be paying on the front bench, or perhaps not even in the dressing room anymore, I'm still with you and willing to serve to realize that dream, and to one day put it all behind us as we create and build the country that is just for all. And with that, Tim, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Adam. And you're right. It has been a team effort. And when we talked at the beginning, you know, the opening plenary, we talked about this being a challenging, dangerous, but hopeful time for our sector. And as you've alluded, I think I think it's really important for the people that are here today with us to know and understand and feel that, you know, they're part of a large and growing and healthy and strong movement. But, you know, these are challenging times. The pandemic will be with us for some time. The impact of the pandemic will be with us for some time. We face some challenging headwinds for sure, getting there, both on the ground and in politics, but we are in also a very hopeful time. And, you know, we have, for the first time in 30 years, a national housing strategy. We have billions of dollars of investment. We have a renewed reaching home. We have right to housing in legislation. We have, you know, the support of the federal government and a federal commitment to end chronic homelessness. And so we have to, you know, push hard to protect those gains. And you have been instrumental in helping us get to the position we are in today. I shudder to think what might have happened in our sector had a pandemic come in a time without a national housing strategy, or without a reaching home, or without the support of the federal government. So thank you, Adam, on behalf of everyone here, on behalf of the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness and our partners at the Co-op Housing Federation, CHRA, Lived Experience Leadership and the networks, and others who are here with us today. Thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm sure we will see each other again soon. And you'll be certainly kicking around the halls of this conference and others. We will no doubt see you again. So thank you, Adam, on behalf of everyone. And so with that, we are getting ready to head off to our concurrent sessions, folks. I would ask that take a few minutes to engage with your peers. We have an opportunity. This is the annual meeting of our movement, and we have gathered 1,400 of your peers. Take time to connect in the chat. Be sure to check out the CAEH21 game. You get a chance to win a free registration the next year, and one of 5 copies of Tanya Talaga's new book. We will have our lunchtime, or sort of midday concurrent plenary with Tanya Talaga starting at about 12:30 Eastern today. So please do come back for that. And again, thank you to our sponsors, the Home Depot Canada Foundation, Reaching Home, Employment and Social Development Canada, as well as Veterans Affairs. Thank you, everyone. And I am looking forward to connecting with you over the morning. And we will see you back here at 12:30 Eastern. Have a great morning, everyone.